Elden Ring Nightreign is a game that represents a pretty bold addition to FromSoftware's roster of games, and both resembles the last game they made, and at the same time, stands apart from anything FromSoftware has created before. When I first saw the announcement trailer at the Game Awards, I was both confused and excited to see what it would bring, and that excitement only grew after I was able to play the network test earlier this year. That brings me to today, where I have now had the chance to play the full release for about a week straight and can confirm that I love this game, and while it has quite a few flaws and kinks to be worked out, I am overall extremely happy with its addition and feel like it fulfills the exact role I needed until the next major FromSoftware release. Like I said, this title has been controversial, and it is by no means a perfect game. While the developers have been releasing updates trying to fix these issues, some still remain prevalent, and so I fully understand and expect everyone watching this video to have different experiences and opinions on the matter. This video will essentially be a rant that weaves together pros and cons that I found with the game that ultimately convey the reasons why I had an overall great time and am happy with its addition to the Souls catalog. I think the best thing to cover first is the gameplay loop, as Nightreign is expected to be played over and over again, so this loop needs to be both fun and engaging. Overall, Limveld, which is the map you drop into, has the same general layout each time that you start a new run, but its key locations, such as churches, enemy camps, and locations of bosses, are roughly randomized each time. I say roughly because some locations always remain, such as this big castle in the middle, and depending on the Night Lord you select at the start, the bosses you find will only be randomized from a select few each time. Some players found this to make the runs feel more stale, but I actually liked this balance because if I lost a run, then at least I still gained some knowledge about what areas to generally avoid, or what areas have a good chance of an easy boss appearing. Then there are the major changes to the map, and these are from the result of shifting Earth events. There are 4 of these total that cause a drastic change in the map, and usually offer a unique power within if you explore them and tackle their challenges. These were a great addition as they addressed the potential problem of having the general layout of the map getting stale. I will say that it was a huge miss from the developers by not letting us choose what shifting Earth we want to do, and instead we have to wait until we randomly trigger one to happen. This is especially annoying when doing remembrances that require specific events that you just need to wait to trigger. The gameplay loop itself is extremely fast and is part of what makes this game so addictive. The second you load in, you are already marking locations on the map and coming up with the perfect route to maximize the time you have before the storm arrives. When it all works, it is extremely satisfying and rewarding. But sometimes it does not work out, and you have random teammates that just want to go off on their own and provide less than optimal value to the team, but I'll talk about that in a later section. Overall, I liked the gameplay loop, and it fulfilled its most important job, which is making me want to queue up for another round after each win or loss. Now, I want to touch on one of the more controversial topics in this game, and that is all of the reused assets that it features. I will go ahead and say that I don't really mind it at all, and would go as far as to say it benefited in some ways by having these old bosses and enemies. Remember, this game is about beating as many camps and bosses as quickly as possible, and so for me, seeing an enemy or boss that I already knew was good because I knew right off the bat if it would be easy or hard, and if it was worth my time. Most players who picked up this game already played Elden Ring, and so if you see a perfumer as a boss for a camp, you can know that it will be quick and easy. And on the other hand, if you stumble across the bottom of the castle and come across the red-eyed, bell-bearing hunter, then you might just run away and try to use your time in better ways. It is also important to keep in mind that almost no one wanted this game over the next major FromSoftware release, and so using all of these reused assets from both Elden Ring and the previous Souls titles makes the game not only cheaper for you to pick up, but also takes a lot less time and resources from the developers, which means more time and effort put into the game you'll probably be more excited for. So in general, I don't mind the use of reused assets, as the fights that I consider important, like the Night Lords, were all new and made extremely well. Some are more annoying and have gimmicks to them, but this all added up to make a great selection of bosses to choose from, and I love how they each provide a great challenge for multiplayer without all relying on spawning multiple enemies, but rather have entire kits that you can tell were made for this game and work very well when fighting 3 players. Most of these Night Lords hold up the quality that we saw in Elden Ring, and their designs and mechanics were both fun to discover. I will say, one thing I was kinda disappointed about was the lack of weapons and bosses from the DLC Elden Ring had, as I think a lot of them would have been cool to see. Many of Elden Ring's best bosses and coolest weapons came from that expansion, and I think it was a bit of a miss to skip over them. I'm guessing that they were already deep into development by the time Shadow of the Erdtree was released, and so they just skipped over them. Nightreign is expected to be played with other people, and specifically with 2 other people. This brought most of the problems that this game faces, such as not having crossplay, no support for playing with just 2 people, and for some reason, no voice chat. These issues make your runs potentially very frustrating, as you never know who you might get on your team, and in my experience, I only played with one friend, and so we always crossed our fingers hoping that our teammate would just go with the flow and know all their buttons. Then there's the solo option to play, which basically just makes the bosses have less health, but for most it is too hard, as again the fights and enemy camps are designed with 3 people in mind, and so for most solo runs are just not an option. Though, overall, these issues seem to be getting fixed as time goes on. Recently, an update was released that made solo runs way easier, and in my opinion, the perfect sweet spot of balance, which made many Night Lords perfectly feasible to be beaten by yourself. The big change in this update was making bosses and enemies drop more runes, so this results in you having an extra 1 to 2 levels when compared to the previous patch. Also, my teammates just got more competent as time went on, as again, this was a new game, and it takes a bit for people to get adjusted to the combat and gameplay loop, and I am aware that I was a little ahead after playing around 15 hours in the network test. In fact, as I'm working on this video, the developers have also now confirmed an upcoming update where duos will now be an option, which is great and should have been in the game from the start, but at least they're trying and not leaving their release half-baked for too long. Maybe this means we'll get crossplay and voice chat in the future, but personally I think those will be much more unlikely. Matchmaking also seemed to have some problems though, as I often had 15 to 20 minute wait times on release day to get into games, and that definitely seemed like a problem, as if this is what it will be like when the game just came out, then I don't want to see it in a month. This long wait time is multiplied tenfold when you try to queue up for a remembrance quest, and I even waited for 2 hours before giving up and going back to regular matchmaking. Luckily, the developers said that they're releasing a patch to address these wait times and should be active by the time this video airs. Then there are the Nightfarers, who are the 8 characters you can select from, and I only have good things to say about them. Having pre-made heroes was an absolute must for the roguelike gameplay, and I think they nailed almost every playstyle with them. Some are better than others, and Iron Eye is certainly at the top, but each one is perfectly viable and broken in their own way. I love how they each thrive in their own instances, but are also flexible enough to account for the slightly different playstyles their players might have. My personal favorite is Wilder, due to how solid his kit feels and how crazy the movement is that he can do in fights. And then I sometimes play Iron Eye for when I need some range during specific Night Lords. We are supposed to have 2 more Nightfarers released later with the DLC, and I honestly have no idea what they'll be like, as I already feel we have characters that cover all the general styles that players have, but I'm excited to see what they come up with. In addition to the new Nightfarers, there will also be new Night Lords and some new skins. Overall, I'm very happy to see not only the future DLC that this game will receive, but also the constant updates that the base game has been receiving to try to help resolve the issues that it has. It goes to show that FromSoftware is really trying to make this game the best they can, even if they had some obvious flaws on release that should have never been there. Now I can finally talk about how this game scratches an itch I had, and address the title of the video on why I personally needed this game. As I'm sure I've made clear by now, I am a huge fan of all of FromSoftware's releases, and Elden Ring is one of my favorite games of all time. I cannot even begin to tell you how many hours I've spent replaying the game and doing challenge runs, but now I've gotten to a point where it's a bit of a drag to start a new run and travel across the entire map each and every time just to fight the bosses I want to replay. I think Sekiro handled this perfectly by allowing players to refight any boss at any time, but it was clear that Elden Ring could not have done the same thing because of all the variables they would have had to account for. This is where Nightreign comes into play, as it serves the exact purpose that I wanted it to. This game allows me to play at a fast pace that resembles the speedruns that I ended up doing of the last game, only this time it's kept fresh with all of its randomization. Nightreign was made to be replayed. On top of that, adding multiplayer just further enhances that feeling of freshness that each new run brings. Through the combination of 8 different Nightfarers, random locations, random weapons, random buffs, and all of the chaos that can come from playing with others, I know for me at least, this title is perfect for keeping me occupied and providing me with that weekly dose of FromSoftware that I like to have. Yes, there are a good number of bumps and flaws, but it's still not enough to take away from the purpose that this game fulfills for me, and for that, I am extremely happy and satisfied with its release. I think the Dustbloods game will also serve this purpose when it releases later next year on the Switch too, and so I'm also excited for that. Overall, I'm happy with this new direction that FromSoftware is trying out, and as long as they keep making their single-player masterpieces, then I'm all for experimenting and trying new things, even if it means there'll be some kinks to work out that we can see they're already trying to address. And that's about all I have to say for today's video. Thank you all for stopping by and staying until the end, and I really appreciate the support. If you liked the video and want to see more like it and cover different games, then please consider liking and subscribing as I have a lot more planned. With that, thank you all for watching, and until next time.